In the heart of Appalachia, legends blur with reality beneath the endless mist and silent trees. Generations of truckers and travelers have vanished or witnessed the unexplainable on these roads. Phantom headlights trailing just out of sight, voices whispering over dead radios, and mysterious toll stations demanding a strange price for passage. Every chilling account, from the Mist Lady to the Midnight Toll, reminds us that some journeys through these haunted mountains come at a cost, and not every driver who enters the fog finds their way back out. In the Appalachian dark, the line between the living and the dead is as narrow as the next winding Mila. Truth echoed in every viral tale and every cold, unforgettable silence after headlights flicker out.
Story 1. The Woman in Orange Reflective.
For as long as truckers had crossed the back roads of the Appalachian Highlands, rumors floated of a silent woman in an orange reflective vest, haunting the same lonely stretch between two ancient stone mile markers. Stories varied. Sometimes she stood motionless in the mist, sometimes she vanished right before a rig's headlights, and sometimes she was glimpsed drifting along the shoulder just before midnight storms rolled in. Nobody admitted to stopping, but everyone claimed to have seen her. Ricky, who prided himself on not believing in ghost nonsense, was hauling a flatbed full of lumber on a wet October evening. The weather was classic mountain mischief, a thick patchwork of rain and stuttering fog wrapping the highway tight in its icy embrace. He switched on his high beams as he rounded the infamous curve, the one that locals said you could measure with ghost stories instead of mile markers. At first, there was only the hollow roar of tires on wet asphalt, then a flash of bright orange. 20 yards ahead, framed in the whiteout of his lights, stood a woman. She was average height, dark hair plastered to her cheeks from the rain, her orange vest glowing eerily against the monochrome landscape. Ricky felt a chill, but told himself she was just a stranded hiker. She raised one hand, neither waving nor signaling, but simply holding her palm out in the universal gesture. Stop, he hesitated. Then, against all the rules, slowed to a crawl. As the truck stopped, the windows fogged immediately, and the radio fizzled to static. He couldn't make out her face clearly. Every feature seemed blurred by raindrops and distance. Against his better judgment, Ricky rolled the window down an inch. "You need help?" he called. The woman didn't reply. She only turned, so slowly it felt unnatural, and took a single step away from the road toward the thickest part of the mist. There was something hypnotic in the way she moved. Ricky felt a bizarre urge to follow. Suddenly, the entire cab filled with strange, acrid cold. The truck's engine sputtered, as if choked by water. Ricky slammed his window up in panic. The headlights flickered, then surged brighter than ever, illuminating the woman's vest further down the road. She stood motionless again, staring straight into the beams. He blinked, and she was gone. Only the wind lashed the empty road. The dashboard clock had skipped ahead nearly 30 minutes. Ricky's heart hammered. He forced himself to drive on, pulse pounding. In the mirror, he watched for miles, scanning the shoulder, determined to prove it was all just fatigue and weather. At the next town's truck stop, he tried to laugh off the story, but was met with stoic stares from older drivers. One finally spoke. "She appears before crashes. Couple times, she saved someone, other times, she takes their spot. My daddy saw her once, swore off this route after dark forever." Piecing together local lore, Ricky learned of a worker who vanished repairing the old road. Decades prior. Woman last seen in an orange vest. Never found when the storm flooded the canyon. Some say she is warning drivers. Others claim she's searching for someone to take her place, and that once you see her, you'll always feel a pair of eyes in the mist if you linger too long. Since that night, Ricky never stopped on that stretch again, but every autumn, when fog cloaks the highway in silence, some truckers swear they spot a flash of orange in the darkness, never waving, never smiling, always watching. Because in the mountains, the most dangerous sign might not be posted on the road, but standing right beside it, waiting for you to stop.
Story 2. Appalachian Radio.
There are stretches of Appalachian highway where the world feels out of step with time, where the radio slips into dead air, and every shadow beyond the windshield hums with a secret. Truckers call these routes the quiet lanes, and most agree. You tune the dial only as loud as you dare, and never, ever scan for new frequencies after midnight. James was a veteran driver, with nerves hardened by years on lonely roads. He was hauling medical supplies through West Virginia's mountain passes, threading his rig through rolling mist when his playlists cut out. He fiddled with the dial classic rock. Static, then a strange, clear signal, a measured voice reading numbers in a flat, phonetic rhythm. 4760. 161112. James frowned, maybe a local ham radio hobbyist, but the voice wasn't quite human. It was too precise, the spacing too uniform, like a computer on the edge of a dream. Each number sequence was followed by a jarring silence, then a faint, unnerving sob in the background, an echo that made his skin prickle. He tried to tune away, but every station, every frequency, bled the same message. In between the numbers, faint ghostly words broke through. Please, listen. Please don't forget. Then, suddenly, the transmission shifted. The voice grew more urgent, vowels flattening, crackle increasing. The numbers repeated. Except James glanced at his GPS, and the coordinates matched his exact location on the mountain pass. Now the number voice recited his altitude, his direction, the curve ahead. He shut the radio off only for it to light back up of its own will, static and whispering counting, filling the cab dot from the sleeper bunk's darkness. Came a woman's sob, and somewhere in the haze, he almost thought he heard his own name, ghosted out through the static. James pulled over, heart pounding, shaken out of stoic reserve. The mist outside was so dense, his headlights bounced back in a dull white wall. The voice kept counting, echoing in the empty lanes behind him, now overlaid with unfamiliar names and cold, mechanical apologies. For a moment, he felt something pass near his window. Wind, or a pressure like someone exhaling on cold glass. He tried his cell phone. Dead, no bars. He thumbed the CB radio, only static. Was he dreaming? Or were all the numbers a warning, some supernatural record of every lost soul? Every missed trucker, every accident filed away by the mountains themselves. When he forced himself to drive again, the radio finally went dead, not to music, but to a void, a silence that rang in his chest even louder than before. He made it to the next truck stop at dawn, and shakily asked the counterboy if they ever picked up strange stations out here. The young man only shrugged, but two old-timers at the next booth exchanged somber glances. Some of us have heard them, one said. Sometimes it's numbers, sometimes it's names, sometimes it's your own voice, long before you ever speak. A rumor hangs now over certain curves of the Appalachians, that if the radio ever finds you, and if it ever starts reading back your location or forgotten words in the night, you drive. You never answer. And above all, you never stay parked long enough to let the counting finish. Because some signals wander forever in the mountains, calling out old names and always searching for one more.
Story 3. The Fog Line.
There are haunted places in the Appalachians, but not all of them are old towns or graveyards. Sometimes the road itself seems enlivened. The only marker between this world and the next is the thick chalk of the fog line, rising and writhing. In the headlights, Darius had been hauling freight east of Hawk's Nest for over a decade. He was the careful type, not a man to spook easily or take shortcuts. But every trucker in 4 counties knew about that particular stretch near the gorge, the long, straight miles, where fog rolled in so heavy it could erase your world. That night, Darius's schedule was tight. He pressed on, even as mist thickened into a frozen sheet that swallowed the dashed white lines and bled the edges of the pavement into nothing. At first, the fog was just a nuisance, turning mile markers to ghosts and headlights to pale blue smears. Darius focused on the right-hand line, the trusty boundary truckers call the fog line, guiding his way when nothing else makes sense. But as minutes crept on, something strange happened. The line grew brighter, shifting from painted white to an odd, luminous blue. He blinked, unsure if exhaustion was playing tricks. Still, the line pulsed and moved. Not an optical illusion or roadwork. It was like a living ribbon, writhing on the shoulder, snaking in subtle curves away from the path. Darius found himself following it unconsciously, the rest of the world dissolving to shadow beyond the blue. His radio fizzled. The circuit, a bed of white static, interspersed with breathing, soft, shallow, panicked matching his own. The temperature in his cab plunged, despite the blasting heater. On the windshield, a foggy film crawled outward from the bottom, obscuring everything but that rippling, beckoning line. With every mile, the ribbon's glow intensified, now blushing a cold, ethereal silver. Darius's dashboard clock stuttered, then skipped ahead. He tried to shake it off, but when he looked up, the fog line veered sharply right, luring his truck toward a shoulder where no road should be. In the side mirror, Darius caught a second, phantom truck trailing behind, perfectly matching his speed, its own fog lights flaring blue in lockstep with the line. Each time Darius slowed or corrected, the presence mirrored him, always there, never overtaking. His heart hammered, the CB only hissed. Overhead, a highway sign loomed from the mist. "Stay in lane, hazard ahead." With a burst of fear, Darius yanked the wheel away, slamming brakes and wrenching his rig back onto what little he could see of the real pavement. The glowing line blurred, winked out ditch, and brush rushed past his window, gone in an instant. Suddenly, everything returned to normal, fog thinning. The right line plain white again, morning birdsong seeping in at the horizon. Shaking, Darius pulled onto the shoulder, engine idling. The trailing truck was gone. Nothing but empty roads stretched out in both directions. He staggered from the cab, legs weak, and found the right fog line cool to the touch. Old and chip-tutterly ordinary in the daylight. At the next truck stop he told his story, voice still trembling. Old-timers nodded. Gravely, "The fog line leads you away if you let it," one said, "to where the mountain once you lost." Others muttered about the ghost convoys. Spectral rigs doomed to follow that shimmer off the road, never seen again except in the thickest mists. Always chasing an impossible blue dot. Now, when fog hugs the Appalachians and the right line starts to glow, Darius refuses to drive alone. Sometimes he swears he sees that trailing blue light and feels the road alive, shifting beneath his tires, offering a way out of the world or a way into some place no one comes back from. And for every driver who keeps both headlights and wits clear, there's a secret warning: respect the fog line and never follow it anywhere the living don't belong.
Story 4. The truck that wasn't there.
Of all the stories traded among Appalachian truckers during late-night coffee breaks, none struck a deeper nerve than those about the ghost truck, the blue-striped rig that appeared out of nowhere, haunted mirrors and memory, and vanished without a trace. Luis, a cautious and veteran driver, prided himself on his logical mind. He'd heard the tales, always from someone who knew a guy, but had never experienced anything supernatural himself. Until one sleepless stretch through the winding mountain passes changed that forever. It started on a moonless night, the sort where fog drifted between the trees, and why the winding blacktop seemed to coil endlessly around the ridge. Luis was hauling machinery bound for Roanoke, and the only company in his mirrors was his own array of running lights, and the comforting blink of his dashcam, recording every mile just in case. Somewhere along a lonely ascent, just past the last radio signal, Luis noticed headlights in his rear view, not distant, not rushed, but fixed right behind him, with unblinking intensity. He checked again. An old semi-battered blue stripes barely visible in the swirling mist, tucked just far enough back to stay hidden from passing traffic. At first, he chalked it up to a late-night convoy, a familiar comfort on Appalachian roads. He changed lanes at a pull-off to let the other truck pass. But no matter what he tried, slowing, signaling, taking the next curve quicker than he liked, the blue-striped rig shadowed his every move, neither gaining speed nor dropping back. It was as if the driver behind was reading his mind. Luis got uneasy. He flicked his CB, calling for a highway check. Only static replied. He tapped the brakes gently, a silent code for the tailing truck to overtake. Still, it hovered in the rear view, headlights unwavering, trying to break the spell. Luis called out on the dashcam recorder, "You can't ride my tail all night, buddy." He noted the time and the location, then rolled down the window at a stop sign. Nothing but wind and the distant drip of water from the trees. At the next way station, expecting the blue-striped truck to finally pull up behind, he parked and waited. Minutes passed. The parking lot emptied. No headlights. No air brakes wind on the gravel. It was only when he reviewed the dashcam on his phone later that night, parked safe out of the mountains, that the chill truly set in. The entire taped 2 hours of tense driving showed blank darkness behind him. The blue-striped truck, so unmistakable in the mirror, never appeared on film. Sometimes there would be a flickering distortion when Luis glanced at the rear view, like something electrical skittered through the device. But there was never a trace of taillights or a cab. The footage offered no comfort, only deeper confusion. He shared the experience at an all-night diner, unsure if he should admit how spooked he'd become. At first, the other drivers ribbed him until an older man in a faded baseball cap leaned in. "That's not new," he said quietly. "Folk around here call it the runaway. It's been chasing drivers up and down these hills since before my granddad. Some say it's the rig of a driver who vanished trying to outrun his own fear. His truck went off the road. Not a trace found, not even in the riverbed. Now he follows anyone who drives alone too long at night. Always, same distance, always, in your blind spot. And when you stop to prove he's real, there's never any sign." Others joined in with chilling details. Tales of truckers who tried to snap phone pictures and caught only static. Partners swearing they saw taillights in side mirrors, only for their passengers to insist there was nothing there. In every story, one fact stayed true: the blue-striped rig never appeared on any recording, and always vanished the second you left your vehicle. Luis never fully shook the feeling of those night miles. Sometimes, even in daylight, he'd glance in the mirror and see a blur of blue and white, just before a tunnel or overpass. He never let his dashcam record on that stretch again. Better, he figured, not to know for sure. And still, when the mist thickens, those who drive alone through the heart of the Appalachians know to check their mirrors. If you see the truck that isn't really there, remember, keep your eyes on the road and your foot on the gas. Whatever is following may want company, even if it's only for one more mile. In these haunted mountains, some ghosts ride shotgun. Others prefer to keep just far enough back that only you and your fear can see them.